Welcome back, everybody, to this week's episode of the Standing Room Only podcast. I am Goose. As always, I'm here with Healy. This is episode number 38. 38 long weeks. A little bit longer than that because of the whole COVID situation. But as always, we are back. Just want to thank everybody for tuning in. If you don't already follow us on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, we are the Standing Room Only podcast, of course. Go ahead and hit that download button, hit the like button, subscribe, whatever it may be. It's very important for us that you hit the download button. That is how we get our view count. We are on social media as well. We're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, the SR Only Pod, and of course, we are on YouTube as well, Standing Room Only Podcast. For our own personal accounts, I am iGoose with 4 O's. As always, don't ask why. And of course, we have Healy.
Yeah, you can follow me at the Healy6. Yeah, make sure you hit that download button, subscribe, leave us a ratings, follow us on our social medias, and let's hop right into it. Wanted to give a early happy birthday to Goose here. By the time you guys are listening to this, it is his birthday, so he's turning 42 tomorrow. So
It's about, you know what? It's funny. I've been hearing that all day from my girlfriend. So let's just roll with it. I'll take 42. If I look like this at 42, the world is screwed. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, we got some baseball news. We're going to start off with the Chicago Cubs. A little spoiler, next week we might have a player in the Chicago Cubs organization on. So you guys are excited for this week's episode. You might want to be more excited for next week's episode when we have possibly our first guest on the podcast. Once it's officially confirmed, we have a day and time set. We will be tweeting it out, so stay tuned to our social medias for that. Speaking of the Cubs, they are 10-2.
They're hot.
They started off, I believe, 5-2 maybe. I think they started off with a sweep against the Brew Crew, and then they went 2-2 with Cincinnati, and then they've won 5 straight. 3 against the Pirate, or it might be 6 straight actually. So I don't know how I've messed up the schedule. Anyways, though, but they've swept the Pirates. They have currently won 3 out of 4 with Kansas City. They finish out that tomorrow. Have you seen any of their games recently?
All I've seen so far is final scores and the fact that they are 9-1 in 10 games. They're 10-2. What I've noticed is from the first few games and on, we saw Anthony Rizzo has been hot from the get-go, and their pitching has been phenomenal.
Starting pitching has been hot.
Yes, starting pitching has been hot. And I think going back, and I'll probably say this throughout the season because I think this might be my only good prediction. That the Cubs are gonna take their division. And I'm pretty sure I picked the Reds and then the Cubs taking the wild card. But the Cubs are hot right now. Both teams are exciting. But the Cubs have surprised me. They're hotter than I thought they could even get to with the team that they have, especially with David Ross as coach. They're at a +20, which puts them up there with the league leaders, with the Dodgers, with I think Atlanta's in the NL that has one of the highest. And that's not even speaking of the AL. I know Minnesota has a really high plus run advantage. Their differential's 33. But I don't know, Healy. I'm excited right now, and I'm not even a Cubs fan.
They have one of the best offenses in baseball right now. The DH has helped them keep some guys that would come out of the lineup for rest days and keeps them in there to get their bat still going. Also, starting pitchers, they've had 4 or 5 consecutive games of quality starts out of their starters, which is huge. Quality start is 6 innings of 3 or less runs allowed. So if you have guys pitching 6 innings minimum, saving the bullpen, and especially with how bad their bullpen's been recently, it is great to see them not pitch as much as they should. Jeremy Jeffries, he is looking like his 2018 self. He was an all-star for the Brew Crew. He was a pest whenever the Brew Crew played the Cubs, him and Josh Hader. And he is looking great. You have other guys like Rowan Wick. He's looking okay. You also have Kyle Ryan in the pen. They called up Justin Steele, so he'll get his debut soon. The one guy who is not looking good, and I have no clue what's happening, Craig Kimbrell. They tried him out again the other day to close out the game, and he got 1 out of 3 guys out. The Cubs had like a 3-run lead or something, 2 or 3 run lead in the 9th. And Craig Kimbrell pitched the minimum 3 batters. He got a strikeout, but he also allowed 2 hits, which allowed runners to be on second and third. And then David Ross was like, no, you're coming out of the game. We're getting someone else in there. And the Cubs ended up winning barely because of that. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if he's tipping pitches. I know he's had 2 super long breaks in between. Did he develop the yips? Because he used to be so good and now he's coming back and like there's a lot of pressure on him and he wasn't what he once was. I have no clue what's going on with this guy.
Yeah, you would think, especially with somebody like Kimbrel, who, as you mentioned, he was a stud. He was with Boston. He was with even Atlanta. He wasn't bad. He was a pretty good closer.
He had the lowest before he went to the Cubs. He had the lowest ERA in MLB history for like minimum 500 innings or so. Minimum, the lowest ever.
And that says a lot for a guy who comes in to pitch an inning, maybe 2 innings in a game. Maybe it's the beard. Maybe he shaved off the beard and his talent was in there. We don't know.
He had the beard last year.
He I don't know if it's hard to say. I mean, pitching, the way I look at it, like pitching has always been a mental, like keeping your composure. They have the offense. They're winning these games that he's coming into. Obviously, he's their closer. So it makes you wonder, how is he getting put in these situations? How is he giving up these runs? And it makes, you always want to give them the benefit of the doubt that it's like, you've been in the situation where you're considered the best closer in the game. Let him pitch his way through it. There's the pandemic, there's this, there's that. You're in Chicago now, which is like, I mean, that's the glorified baseball team. I mean, that's America's team. And I mean, besides like the Yankees, right? That is the Cubs. I mean, you have Wrigleyville North, you have Wrigleyville. I mean, that is the team that everybody looks up to in the States. And it's like, is it maybe pressure? I don't know. I still think he's gonna work his way through it and he's gonna come around, but it has not been looking good for him at all.
No, I think they have to force him to they're gonna force him in situations where the game is like pretty much over, where the Cubs are either up like 6 runs or they're down like 5 runs. I think they're gonna just throw him out there and just be like, just get outs and like get that confidence back. But I would like for him to overcome that. I personally think his days as the guaranteed Cubs closer is over. David Ross, especially in the shortened season, they're 10-2. You got to keep it up, keep up the momentum, and win every game possible.
Yeah, and
no
as
trials.
You said, those quality starts that's a huge deal, especially when you guys, when there's teams like the Cleveland Indians, Bieber and some of their other pitchers are going 6-7 innings and they're striking out 10, 11, 12, 13 guys. And this is like multiple games. This isn't just, they're on a stretch. And I know that the Indians are one of those teams where it's like, they're a great team, but that pitching is putting them over the edge. The Cubs, to me, have a good, as you mentioned, a good starting rotation. Those bats have been pretty, I would say they're doing pretty well. They have Javi, they have Anthony Rizzo, they have Contreras. They have those assets on the offensive side to where they're going to be able to lead games, but Kimbrel is going to have to come around eventually, because at some point it's like, now you're in a situation where you had like Pedro Strop in the past and some other closers where they had potential. They pitched good games, but you just couldn't rely on him to complete a game.
Yeah.
So I don't know, and I'm missing out on some closers recently besides Pedro Strop. There's been other, I mean, besides Aroldis Chapman, obviously, but he was another one too who in the World Series, let's not forget, gave up some runs, some key runs to where it was a nail biting
Yeah.
game. So
After he was used a ton throughout that
a
run.
lot, yes.
Uh, but yeah, they have Bryant who's coming around again. They're bottom of the order guys. Ian Happ has been playing well. You got Nico Horner playing well. Jason Kipnis right now against righties, he has been on fire. So that's been a good pickup. Derek Dietrich still hasn't seen the field. Cody Allen got signed by the Cubs, so he could be a decent piece in the pen. But like right now, Craig Kimbrell, like there's no situation where you can use him, and it's just a waste of a arm slot. Speaking of like roster sizes though, MLB, it was 30. The season was supposed to go 30 guys to start, and then it goes down to 28 guys, and then it would eventually go to the MLB new rule 26. They expanded the roster spot one more this year. They trimmed it down to 28, and it will remain 28 throughout the rest of the season. But each team still can have their taxi squad, which it has now expanded from 3 guys to 5 guys. So you still have the same amount of players, except they're just in different spots. And for people who don't know what a taxi squad is, I learned this the other day from a player. So a taxi squad is guys you take on the road with you. So if you get like an injury or something, they can be in the game then. Or like you can call them up or like put them on your team for like the next game or whatever, to prevent like travel and like people flying and stuff. So
Okay, so I was gonna say that's if and only if there's an injury or somebody's ill, they have to be
yeah,
out for that day. Okay.
yeah, and then they'll have that guy be on the team. So that's what the taxi squad dictates. So the 2 guys that are gonna be cut from like the team are gonna pretty much be on that taxi squad and still like remain with them.
Okay. Yeah, that's the first time I've heard that as well. So I'm assuming they still are on a contract at some point there.
Yeah.
Um, so that's good to know. So I mean, if we're looking right now, if we look at, I mean, is there any team that stands out? Obviously, there's been a COVID crisis, right?
Mm-hmm.
We had the Marlins, the Miami Marlins, which I called the Florida Marlins probably 12 times last week. They had a whole COVID situation. They're back. They're playing ball. They're 5-1 right now. But then there was another team, the St. Louis Cardinals, who their team is kind of catching it as well.
Yeah.
Um, there's, the MLB they're the spotlight right now for major league sports, and potentially, I mean, I know they're not related, but the NFL might be eyeing Major League Baseball with their lack of restriction compared to like the NBA with the
Mm-hmm.
bubble. So we're looking at that right now. And the St. Louis Cardinals, who have only played 5 games so far compared to the average team, which is like 10, 12 games.
Yeah.
They had like 13, 14 positive tests. What are your thoughts? I mean, I personally think like at some point, do you see the MLB shutting down because of this, or?
I said with the Marlins that I think teams would get it together. Now I'm like confident that teams will officially get it together after
Yeah.
a second team in another division got it as well. So the Cardinals, Yadier Molina was one of them.
Yep.
There was talks of guys like Miles Mikolas and John Gant going to like casinos. They were going fishing and golfing, and like they weren't wearing masks. They were not social distancing. And it's like, you could have your own thoughts and whatever, but when you're playing Major League Baseball and you guys fought for your player safety and for this league to continue for the year, you guys continued to play. You could have opted out. But they continued to live their normal lifestyle and potentially ruin the league for the season. Now, for me,
Eh,
I don't think the league will be canceled at all. They've done their precautions, they've postponed games. So I think everything will be fine. The season will not be canceled. Overreaction in that part. But like these guys just get it together. It's 2 months, play the baseball, and then after that you can do whatever you want.
They had the most time off that they'll ever get in their lives with this sport. I mean, this is a sport where like you are constantly traveling from March or end of February, early March, all the way until October if you're a playoff team. And it just goes to show that like and the biggest thing, a lot of people are like, well, they're not gonna, they're asymptomatic or whatever the case may be, but that's not the point. That's not what they're looking at. Obviously
Mm-hmm.
these guys, 90%, 95, 99% of these guys could be okay. 99.9 could be okay. That's not the point. The point is nobody wants, like Mike Trout, for instance, just came back after having he did the birth of his child. He came back and, going into the season, he was one. I mean, he is the prolific, he is the face of the MLB, one of the faces of the MLB. And he was questioning even sitting out because of obviously the birth of his child and health reasons. And just like any other player, like nobody knows
Mm-hmm.
what could happen. But then there's guys who are going out, just like in other sports. The only difference is other sports, such as the NBA, like Lou Williams went to get chicken wings from the strip club, right?
Magic City.
And yeah, he went to Magic City for chicken wings, right? Air quotes, chicken wings.
Mm.
Um, but there was precaution with that. Okay, you're going to come back. That's cool. Just so you know, you're going to isolate now for this many days, X amount of days.
Yeah.
And I think the MLB is starting to realize, well, we kind of gave these guys that freedom to do whatever. I mean, they pretty much are allowing these guys to do whatever they want for the most
Yeah.
part. It's simple as you're going to test. You're going to test once, you're going to test twice before each game, before whatever it may be. But now when it's affecting a whole ball club, you kind of look ignorant being that guy that tested positive or being the cause of. Obviously, there's never really telling who caused it.
Yeah.
But when you're like, well, I did go fishing with Jim, Bob, and Steve the other day. Well, it's like, come on, you're a professional, and that's what the MLB is going to look at and crack down on. And sure, you can't punish these guys for getting sick, but it just goes to show that it's like they gave you a freedom and now they're going to start to restrict that away. And I mean, luckily it's only two ball clubs. It was the Marlins, who's like we
Mm-hmm.
said, is now coming back, and the Cardinals. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
And you have guys like KB and also Joey Votto, who they have gotten a little sick this week, and they pulled themselves from the game and they got themselves tested just to make sure that they didn't have it.
Yeah. I mean, I had to get tested because I didn't know if I was going to be able to do the podcast. I got tested last week. Luckily it came back negative. Otherwise, I don't know how I was going to be able to do a remote podcast. But no, and that's like the good. It's good habits. You want to create the good habits. It's not. This is the new norm for right now,
Mm-hmm.
and you want to be able to trust the player next to you. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? And obviously, when this all started, and I hate to revert. I don't want to jump between sports, but like Rudy Gobert with the NBA, who was joking about it when this all happened, and he's going around touching players and mics and whatever. You wouldn't expect that now because, well, for one, you're an asshole for doing that, and for two, it's you learn. But like with the MLB, and I think it's just a matter of seeing these leaders take initiative and taking it seriously. Like,
Mm-hmm.
granted, we know like 99%, like I said, 99% of these athletes won't get sick, but being asymptomatic doesn't mean you can't spread it elsewhere. Not trying to spread awareness. Obviously, everybody knows the issue with COVID, but it's just a matter of doing what's right.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't even know that about Joey Votto or KB. So that's good to know. But like you said, I don't think the MLB is gonna cancel it. I think it's a matter of this is we don't get this. We don't see this often. It's a matter of trial and error in the
Yeah.
sense. So, I think they're doing pretty well so far. We've had an interesting baseball season. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
some mishaps. but I think that the players are going to learn, and the MLB is going to crack down a little bit more as it goes on, and I think it'll be I think we'll see October baseball.
Yeah. This weekend, the Cubs are supposed to play in St. Louis. And as of now, we don't know if the games are going to be played or not. So, like, as a Cubs fan, they're hot. I hope they play. I hope
You
they
want
play
them
against
to.
a team who, like, hasn't played in a few days. Because it's going to be really unfortunate. If not, they're probably going to make up games. They're going to do some double headers, which I want to transition to. It's been a weird baseball season. We are now watching 7-inning doubleheaders, as well as we're seeing games being played where the home team is now the road team. So the Nats and Blue Jays last week, the Blue Jays were home for a couple games because they aren't playing in Toronto. But like today, Baltimore and Miami, they played a doubleheader, 2 7-inning ball games. The first game, I believe the Marlins were home, and the second game, the Orioles were home. And same with the Phillies and Yankees. They did the same thing. They split the home games today, and it's at the same ballpark. It's very weird seeing like the Yankees be the home team at Citizens Bank, but in a sense, it doesn't really make a difference because there's no fans.
There's no fans. There's no. It's almost like playing an adult rec league. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter where you go. You're gonna play double headers all weekend. But yeah. I mean, that's gonna be the story. And the thing is, that's how it's gonna be with baseball. And I think that was the expectation going into it.
Mm-hmm.
There's gonna be, especially with rain delays, and it's a shortened season. I mean, you're only
Yeah.
playing 60 games.
Mm-hmm.
So double headers obviously happen all year. We always see it, especially in Chicago recently.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think they've ever canceled a game because of snow, but we've seen a lot of snow recently. But it's I don't think anybody expected the cause of being COVID
Yeah.
for double headers. But you know what? That's just the nature of the beast with baseball. Double
Mm-hmm.
headers happen. I don't think that it's still up in the air, right? With the Field of Dreams game because they
Nope, we got
changed it.
canceled.
It got canceled. So last year it was going to be the White Sox versus Yankees, which to me would have been the dream matchup for
Mm-hmm.
Field of Dreams because you have bomb squad versus bomb squad. I'm talking about hitting dingers left and right. Pitch. I mean, the Yankees are probably the more superior team, obviously. But that would have been a great game to watch in Iowa. But that's not the case. And it was supposed to be St. Louis
The
versus.
White Sox.
Okay, so it was still the White Sox. But then, which makes sense. That's the whole Midwest, the Central. Now it's canceled because of
Yeah.
COVID,
Yep.
because the Cardinals obviously tested positive, or
I
a
don't
lot of the squad
It's
did.
not because of that. It's because of traveling and stuff. So they're just
Okay,
like, let's just do it next year.
which makes sense. And chances are next year there will be fans,
Yeah.
even though that field only holds so many fans and the tickets
Mm-hmm.
were out of this world. But yeah, I mean that's gonna be the nature of the beast for a while, probably through the end of the season. The only thing that won't happen is I mean, what happens in the playoff season? What like do you think they really pictured COVID in October? Like what happens? We don't
That
know.
that'll be a topic for another day. I was hearing I was hearing some people talk about like what if before like game 4 of the World Series, Aaron Judge like gets COVID and he has to be out for a while. It's like, wow, okay, yeah, that's we're just gonna have to wait until we get to that. But
I don't know. If I'm Aaron Judge and I'm the MVP of the league, I'm coughing on your door handle. I'm making sure that it's going to be fair. I'm going to come back. You guys are going to come back, and we're going to play this fairly.
yeah. Going back to the double headers, the reason why Miami and Baltimore and Philadelphia and New York both did the split double headers was when Miami originally got COVID. Those teams were supposed to play each other at their home ballparks. So they're making up that lost series now.
Okay.
So it's to reduce the travel. Like, obviously, if they were only going to go to Miami once and now that trip got canceled and now they have to like fit in 3 extra games in Miami again and like try to fix that, it wouldn't have happened. So that's why these doubleheaders are happening here. I'm probably going to expect the same with the Cubs. I just hope that they're in Chicago. That'd be kind of funny to see the Cubs on the road in Chicago. But yeah, that is why the doubleheaders are like that. 7-inning games, weird as well. Trevor Bauer got a complete game shutout over the weekend against the Tigers because he pitched a 7-inning game.
He probably could have gone on 9, but we'll let it slide.
Mm-hmm.
Are the Cubs ever on the road?
No, like when there's fans, no, they aren't really.
Yeah, they're never really on the road. I learned that as a Braves fan from back in the day, but yeah, so I like baseball's been exciting. Baseball has been very exciting. Mike Trout came back, and in his first at bat, he had a home run,
Mm-hmm.
which was a
Mm-hmm.
Mike Trout thing to do.
A dad move too.
A dad move.
Yeah.
Did he have the dad shoes on, the New Balance?
I don't know what happened, but yeah, he had a home run yesterday in his first AB, and first AB tonight he had another home run. He owns the Mariners. It was perfect. So he just had a son, and then his first games back were against his sons, the Seattle Mariners. He owns Seattle in Seattle every single time. You might as well name the stadium after Mike Trout with the damage he does. And also, speaking of baby home runs, Chris Bryant hit a home run yesterday, his first of the season.
There we go.
And he said before the game, he told his son he was going to hit a home run for him. That dad strength is just on another level. But yeah, Mike Trout, he's back. He's hitting home runs. Fernando Tatis hit a bomb tonight. Want to talk about the White Sox?
They've been better. They've been better this past week or so. They've so obviously the first series, I think the last time we talked, their pitching was horrible. Lucas Giolito had a bad first outing. Second outing came out, pitched a gem. He pitched, I think it was 7 innings unearned. They ended up winning the game. He didn't get the win, but they scored 2 runs in the top of the 9th. They ended up winning in his second outing. The team right now, where they stand, they are in a wild card position. They are 7-5. They have the second wild card position in the AL.
Well, you gotta remember 16-team playoff.
Correct. Yes. And Minnesota right now is 10-2. And to be honest, with their offense, I really don't know if the Sox are gonna. Does White Sox have a great offense, but they don't have Minnesota Twins power, where 1 through 9, each guy can probably hit 30 home runs in a season.
Yeah.
Right now the Minnesota Twins are 10-2. They are their run differential is plus 33, which I think might be leading the league. The White Sox have been hot though. They've been hot. They just took the series from Milwaukee. I think they lost today, if I'm not mistaken.
They lost 1-0.
Yeah, 1-0. So their offense didn't produce. All they had to do was produce like they've been, and they would have won. But they were on, if I'm not mistaken, a 6-game win streak. They took out the Royals. They took out Milwaukee, which Milwaukee was one of those teams where we don't know how they were going to perform. They have new talent. Christian Yelich is back. Still don't know how he's going to be the rest of the season. But I feel like the White Sox moving forward should be okay. Their next series, so they have one more tomorrow against Milwaukee to complete their 4-game stretch against them. They do have a 3-game series through the weekend against the Cleveland Indians, and I feel like that's going to be their biggest challenge, simply because the Indians pitching has been pretty damn good. They're starting pitching at least. After that, they go, they're on the road against Detroit. They come back. They're facing St. Louis, then Detroit. And then, of course, at the end of August is where we have the Cubs Sox. So, but I think overall, their team has been looking nice. Yo-Yo's been looking nice.
They've been fun to watch. They've been very fun to watch.
Their young talent has been playing really well.
Nick Madrigal got called up.
He did. He went what did he go? 4 for 4 in his first game?
in his third game.
Third game? Alright. So, he's a little guy, but he can hit
Mhm.
the ball, and he
Yeah.
hits for contact, which is all we need. The Sox have power. They have power at, like, every single position. Besides Tim Anderson, who obviously won the batting title, they never really had a guy who can hit for contact. I know Jose Abreu's usually roughly a
Mhm.
300 batter. Nick Madrigal is I think he's the guy. I think he's it. It's still early. He's still young. Um, we'll see. We'll see. I don't know. There's a lot of
Yeah.
baseball and there's a lot of playoff teams. So with this wild card and with with the amount of playoff teams, it changes everything a little bit.
Yeah. Louis Bob has been very fun to watch. That's a nickname we're coming up with for Luis Robert, my friends and I. We call him Louis Bob.
Oh man, he doesn't even. All right, I'll go with it.
he
I'll go with it.
he's looked fantastic. They've moved him up to the one spot while Tim Anderson's out. They wanted him to prove that he could hit well in the 7 spot or wherever he's hitting. He proved that. All his hits so far, like this year, his first 5 hits were above 100 miles per hour. And that's good. That is amazing. Recently though, I'm not too sure, but he's been looking great. His defensively, he has been a monster. His speed has been amazing. And yeah, he's hitting, like, the only problem with him right now, he's striking out a little bit and he is not seeing any pitches at all. I think he saw like 6 pitches through like 4 at bats or something one game. So whatever you throw to him, he's just looking to hack. But he's hitting pretty decent right now. He's putting up some numbers. I'm glad to see he's doing well.
Yeah.
A fun fact for the White Sox: they were the first team ever to have batters 1 through 4 be Cuban.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. I did not know that. I saw that they posted because they have Yasmani Grandal, they have Jose Abreu, um,
Moncada,
Moncada is Cuban, and there's a fourth.
Robert.
Yeah, Robert, yeah, who we were just talking about. They That's interesting. That is very interesting. They posted that on their social media the other day. That's been like their trend is going with, international players, which there's talent all over this world for baseball. I mean, the talent is out of this world from Canada to the Dominican to Cuba. So that is good that they're expanding. Lewis Robert is batting at 364.
Mhm.
I don't know how long he'll keep it up. I pictured him to be like a 290
Yeah.
hitter. You know, I
Hmm.
figured he would be striking out because he's young. Fun fact: his birthday was just the other day, on August 3rd. So he just turned 23. If my math is
23.
correct.
Yep.
Yeah, 23, which is young for baseball. That's super young.
Yeah.
Some guys they get drafted at 16, don't play until they're 25.
Which is kind of wild to think about.
It's weird. We had some players go to our high school that are finally coming around.
Yeah.
But
Well,
that's a different story.
Nick Birdie's on the 45-day DL now.
Mhm.
Zach Birdie's on the come up though. But yeah, Luis Robert, he's been signed for quite a while. A lot of these international guys, they get signed at 16 and they don't play until like they're 23.
Yeah, yeah. So, but overall, I would say Chicago is an exciting time for baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Basketball, obviously, we don't have any other sports. Um, So I'm excited. As a Sox fan, overall, I'm excited. Pitching could be better, but I'm not gonna, be too picky with the shortened season. Um, I'm not one of those Sox fans that can hate on the other team. I'm excited for the Cubs too. Obviously, that was one of my picks. So ideally, it would be a crosstown World Series every single year, and I would obviously go for the Sox. But who knows? We'll see what ends up happening. But I think that's it for baseball. Was there any other news besides the COVID and the
Nick, the hot players of the week, we have Shane Bieber who
Yeah.
pitched. He's been pitching gems. Trevor Bauer's been pitching gems. Nick Castellanos, he has 6 home runs already on the year. I wish the Cubs re-signed him, especially now with the DH being in the league.
Oh
Aaron
yeah.
Judge, he had 7 home runs in 6 straight games. That streak unfortunately ended because they played a doubleheader today and he didn't hit a home run in the second game. But that streak has been amazing. Aaron Judge, he is back. And boy, he is hitting balls far. He could end up with like 25 home runs on the year. No
I
doubt
wouldn't be
about it.
surprised. I would not be surprised. He's been hitting the ball well. Nick Castellanos, man, man. That's all I gotta say.
He'll be the
That's
one
all I
that
have to
gets
say.
away from the Cubs, and he'll be in their side the whole way through just because he plays in Cincinnati.
Baby, come back. Cue it up, Siri. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that I think is gonna. Javi Baez is actually coming around too.
Yeah,
He's starting
he's
to hit the ball.
improving. He's seen the ball a little bit better. I wanted to give a shout out to I think last week we might have touched on, but Tyler Stevenson, he debuted for the Cubs. Friendly with him. He had a home run against the Cubs. I saw Sterling Sharp debut today for the Marlins. He's a good guy. He pitched an inning and 2/3 and got a strikeout, so welcome to the bigs that way. Cody Ponce, know him as well. He's with the Pirates organization. Got put in an unfortunate spot. It was funny, the day before he got called up to the team, he was like, you got to keep it down with flying the W while we're in town. And he got called up that night and went to the Pirates. And he got put in an unfortunate spot, 10th inning, runner on second. Javi Baez hit a single off him, runner scored. But hey, he got his due. I'm just waiting for Justin Steele of the Cubs. He's now on the Cubs roster as of now. Lefty pitcher. They're probably using him out of the pen at the moment, but we're waiting for him. I think they need a big enough lead or a deficit to bring him in, and he just has not gotten his chance. So I'm excited to see what he does. Been following him for a couple of years. Yeah, that's baseball. I guess tomorrow with FanDuel, I'll post a FanDuel lineup on the Instagram and Twitter for baseball. I'll do one for tomorrow. I'm not too big into baseball FanDuel. I'm not too big into FanDuel in general, but if you want to see my lineup to get a general idea of what to do for yours, or you want to compare lineups and see that way, yeah, we'll post it on the SR Only Pod feed on Instagram and Twitter.
Yes. Actually, I'll be looking forward to that, Healy. I'm gonna need some winning lineups from you. But yeah, as Healy said, that's gonna wrap up baseball. NFL, there's not really much news. The only news we really got besides what we talked about last week, the top 100. We saw Tom Brady running private practices with some Patriots players. They had Mohamed Sanu, they had some other players. And then we have just teams around the league in general. Some players are running private practices because we don't know what's going to happen with the whole COVID situation. Odell Beckham on social media did stress that he thinks that they should cancel the league. Nobody really listens to regular players. Odell might trip a wire and get other players involved. We'll see what ends up happening. They are working and developing a face shield because, well, they wear helmets. Why can't they wear a face shield? We'll see what ends up happening there. I think Oakley was in design with some sort of shield to not necessarily stop COVID, but to slow COVID. Nothing really stops it. So we'll see what ends up happening with that. There's not really any other news outside of that. No new injuries. We're past the free agent period. We're at the point where it's time to draft for fantasy. So I'm personally developing, I'm a commissioner for a couple of different leagues. We may or may not run a league for our podcast, maybe a joint league where we might get others involved. We'll think on that. But Healy, is there any other? There's no NFL news that you could think of, right? Besides maybe some COVID news here and there, but nothing serious. So I think it's safe to say we can jump over to the NBA, the National Basketball Association.
What? Wait 1 second.
Wait.
So I mentioned how Mike Trout had to hit a second home run, or like he hit one yesterday, he hit one tonight. He just hit another home run. 3
Oh
home
man,
runs in 2 games. Mike Trout's back.
the greatest baseball player of all time, to be determined. He's got my vote. That's incredible, man. I love that kid. He's such a good ball player. Um, wow, like you said, those are his sons. Those are his stepsons, right? They're the redheaded stepkids, and he's the dad. So,
Yeah,
wow.
NBA news.
Yeah, NBA. We're on to it. The Lakers, they clinched the number 1 seed in the West. They started off this reseeding, the NBA restart. They beat the Clippers. They've played pretty damn well. Anthony Davis he's had an eye injury, quote unquote, after getting poked in the eye during a scrimmage, has been, I would say, nothing less than stellar. LeBron is LeBron. I know tonight, as far as the games go, the Lakers did lose to the Thunder by almost 20 points. The Thunder probably is the most surprising team out of the whole league. One of the most surprising, considering after they lost Russ, after they lost Paul George, nobody expected to do what they've done. They're at 45 wins on the season in a shortened season.
Yeah.
They just beat the Lakers. I think they're the number like 5 or 6.
Mm-hmm.
The
And,
league's hot.
and they also, Chris Paul, we didn't think Chris Paul was going to be on that team at
We
all.
didn't know what was going to happen because, you think Chris Paul's getting older. Maybe he would sit out, maybe not. They have other young talent. They have Steven Adams.
And he
They have,
didn't want to be there. It was a team that
didn't,
was destined not to do anything.
and their fan base isn't the greatest.
Yeah, I thought for sure he was either going to get DFA'd, like if they were terrible, or he'd be like a trade for like a couple picks later on in like a couple years. But the Thunder, they were in a contention spot to make the playoffs, and I think they thought otherwise. And they're just like, we might as well keep him. And he himself, Chris Paul himself, might have also been like, I have a chip on my shoulder now. I'm going to prove everyone wrong, because he was with a good Houston Rockets team. And he got
Very good, yeah.
and he got dumped. He got dumped to a
Yep.
team who wasn't supposed to be good.
Yeah. And I think so. Chris Paul has been one of the most, I don't want to say underrated, but he's one of those players that should have a title under his belt, and he doesn't. He played with a Rockets team that should have probably had a title
Yeah.
at some point,
Also,
considering who they've had.
yeah. And they missed 27 threes.
Yeah, that's what costed them a playoffs. I think wasn't that game 7 against Golden State?
Yeah,
They missed
it
27.
was.
It was 27 in a row.
Yeah.
And Chris Paul at his age, and I know a lot of times you hear they're at 33, 34, 35. This is going to be it. This is the decline. He gets traded to a scrub team. You'll see him slowly fade away. Kind of like how Melo slowly faded away with the Knicks, right? Started to slowly fade away, which you're seeing a resurgence from him. No, Chris Paul, like you said, has a chip on his shoulder. Great young talent. Great young talent. There is,
Yeah.
and I know this isn't a team that's going to win a 7-game series past the first round. They might win the first round depending on who they play, but in that West is kind of weak. Normally, the West has 10 games over in the 8th seed. Under 500 can get you into the playoffs for the West, which is not something we see very often.
Oh.
I think Chris Paul is definitely, and I know he's in the talks for the MVP. He won't win MVP, but he definitely is up there. He can be a top 5, top 6 player. But that is definitely the surprise team for me. They beat the Lakers tonight, as I mentioned, by almost 20 points. The Grizzlies lost tonight, or earlier. They were the first game of the today. The Grizzlies have been having some troubles. Not only have they lost to the Pelicans, not only did they lose today to the Jazz, in their last game, which I think was yesterday, Jaren Jackson, who is great young star, tore his meniscus, out for the rest of the season. You hate to see it because this is a guy who is an up and coming great power forward for this young Memphis Grizzlies core. Shoots the 3 ball, great inside, he can be a potential double-double with his rebounding, is out. I don't know, even if the Grizzlies, it's probably going to be the play-in, as we know, with the eighth seed. I don't see them really beating anybody else out of the West. I mean, John Morant is going to have to put the team on his back with Valanciunas and maybe like Dylan Brooks. Brandon Clark is good, I
Mm-hmm.
guess. He's stepping in for Jaren Jackson, but um, that West is starting to unfold, and I really don't see too much coming out of that eighth seed. But as far as it looks right now, the Lakers obviously clinched the number one seed. Denver and the Clippers are battling for the two seed, which you want the higher seed right now because obviously the higher seed is going to have the easier path to the finals.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
I think
two and three seed at this point doesn't really matter.
it's going to be a matter of playing. Well, I think it does, only because when it comes down to it, only a little bit. Um, the two seed will play the seven seed, and the three seed will play the six seed.
Yeah.
Houston and Dallas, it all depends on the matchup.
Yeah.
So either way, you're kind of screwed because Luca and Kristaps, or you have two of the best guards in the game with Houston, which is going to be James Harden and Russell Westbrook. Um, but I think overall, and I know we said it before, the Pelicans could make that, that push for the eighth seed. I'm convinced maybe not, because Zion, to me, Zion looks out of shape. He's playing okay, but whoa,
Mm-hmm.
not really trying to shame anybody, but he doesn't look
Oh,
like
he
the
was.
Zion before the pandemic. I
Mm-hmm.
like Portland. I like Portland should be able to take over that eighth seed. And Dame Lillard, Dame time, he's done some things in the playoffs before. He's beaten some pretty good teams. So we'll see what happens over the next week or two. But I think Portland's definitely up there for that eighth seed. Obviously, there might be a play-in. So
Yeah, right as of right now, Memphis holds that 8th spot. They are a game up on Portland. So as
yep,
of now, if the games were to end, Portland would be playing against Memphis, and they'd have to win 2 in a row against Memphis.
yep,
Uh, Also, like, one game behind Portland, San Antonio and the Pelicans, and then a game and a half behind Portland is the Kings, or not the Kings, the Suns. The Suns have won 3 in a row. They beat the Clippers.
hot.
Devin Booker had a game winner, but as of now, like the Grizzlies, they could lose 2 out of their next 4, and they could potentially be out of the 8 and 9 seed altogether.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Like I said, with Jaren Jackson going down, it's going to require John Morant to do more than he is. I love John Morant. He's a great player, but
He's too
at
young
his
as of
age,
now.
he's too
Yeah.
young. He's not ready for it. And I know he put on weight, he put on muscle, but it's like, how much do you expect him to do by himself on an organization that they haven't really had a great franchise? So, and don't get me wrong, 2, 3, 4 years from now, they'll be in the playoffs continuously. It's just maybe not now. And I like Portland. After the win they had against Houston, um, Dame Lillard went up against Russell Westbrook. Obviously, they have a huge, huge rivalry going at each other, especially recently. Dame and Carmelo hitting a game winner, which Melo has been hot in clutch times, hot. And I didn't know if we'd ever get that type of Melo back. I
No,
didn't know if we'd ever get that Melo.
I didn't think so either. I
So I think personally, I'm excited for the West. The East, I don't want to talk about the East. It's clear as day that Milwaukee's going to take the 1. Toronto's going to take the 2. They have a 4-game lead on Boston. And Boston and Miami are going to battle for that 3-4 spot. But I mean, as far as like who's battling for the 8th, nobody is.
no.
Their playoffs are set. It's just going to be a battle of 3 and 4, and then 7 and 8. 7 and 8's obviously Brooklyn and Orlando. Orlando just lost Isaac, who I think he tore his ACL,
Yeah.
which is unfortunate. Great young talent. So prayers out to him. But I mean, the Lake Show is in the West, and everything. My eyes are on the West. The West is right now stealing the show, and my eyes are on that 8th seed right now. I'm more excited for that because going forward, it's like a playoff game every single game for these guys.
Yeah. And yeah, we are definitely going to see a 8 versus 9 seed play-in game. No
Oh
doubt
yeah,
about it. And I am excited for it. That's going to get us amped up for the playoffs. Have you watched any of the games? Or have you just
I've
been like
been
keeping up?
I've been watching. Yeah, I've been watching here and there. I've been watching a few of the games. Yeah,
I
I've been
watched
watching. Yeah,
I watched the opening night Lakers Clippers, but that's been about it. I've been watching so much baseball. I have 4 games on at like a time with maybe a 5th if the Cubs are playing. So I've been engulfed with baseball. I've been somewhat keeping up with basketball. So I'm gonna have to watch some games maybe this weekend. I saw an interesting video yesterday. It was like a tweet or something. And it was saying how because these guys are playing in a bubble and they aren't playing in these wide open stadiums, their depth perception is a lot better, and you're going to see so much better you're going to see a lot better shooting performances, and guys are going to be lights out in the bubble, which we've already seen with TJ Warren going off. We saw Jason Tatum, I think, go off a little bit. We've seen the Clippers, one of their games, the Clippers shot 54% from 3.
yeah.
Why?
That was a game they started off. I think like 8 for 8 to
Yeah.
start the game. They dominated
Yeah.
that game.
Because they're playing in these smaller arenas, which are kind
Venue.
of
Yeah.
like gyms. And in a normal arena, one, the backboard is clear. You see through it. 2, you have like about 30 to 40 rows minimum behind the basketball hoop. And
Going
there's
up.
and also the roof of the stadium is like 100 feet in the air. So your eyes in trying to like perceive how far you have to shoot and all the lights in your face and all that, compared to now where they're playing in these gyms and behind the basketball hoops are like stuff to stop the ball, and
Yeah.
they make it seem like it's a smaller area. These guys are going to be amazing. I'm for the playoffs, we're going to see some insane performances, and I hope you're
You've
ready.
already you've already seen the intensity, and I know you didn't watch a lot of games, but you've seen intensity. I'm talking Giannis almost got into a fight with Dante Hall in a game that he had ended up playing yesterday, which Giannis doesn't his never I don't think he's ever gotten into with anybody. He got into it with a Nets player who's irrelevant, but the intensity's there. Westbrook and Lillard. Westbrook's going off on a ref about Yusuf Nurkic about him complaining to a ref about something, and he's going off, but the ref's like, "Wait, hold on, let me get involved between you and Russ and Dame Lillard because I know you guys have history." And Russ is yelling at the ref like, "No, I'm not talking to him. I'm talking to Nurkic because." There's trash talking. There's the refs they're arguing with the refs. These guys know what they're battling for. This reseeding being 8 games or whatever it is a playoff before a playoff.
Mm-hmm.
The Lakers clinching was huge. It didn't take much. They've only won 2 out of 4 games or 2 out of 5 games. Didn't
Yeah.
take much for the Lakers, but you still expect their starters to play, even if it's minimal performances. Um, there's other talent. You have, like you said, TJ Warren has been going off, which personally, I've been playing him in my FanDuel. He's a cheap buy. Everybody should play him until he goes up to 8 grand, then he's not worth it. But he's a pretty damn good player. That Pacers team is pretty good. Don't know how far they'll go, but every game is a playoff game. The Toronto Raptors just beat the Lakers, and watching that game was almost like I was watching a playoff game. And these guys, they have crowd noise, which actually, as a fan watching from a TV standpoint, is huge
Yeah.
because they're putting effects in, which isn't really it's favoring the home team a little bit in the
Mm-hmm.
sense because they're cheering when the home team scores a little
Yeah.
bit more, but it's not anything crazy like some teams get a home court advantage, but it's enough. As a fan, I feel like I'm just watching the Olympics. That's how I look at the games. I feel like I'm watching the Olympics, and it's the best of the best going at each other. And these guys are playing for a purpose, and that's one thing I was kind of unsure on. How is it going to go? These guys haven't played for months. Are we going to be watching like preseason basketball? But these guys are going for the throat. Dev Booker, the Suns team, I know their record doesn't speak for it, but they could be a dangerous team because of, I mean, they have DeAndre Ayton, they have Ricky Rubio, who never lived up to the height, but he's got potential. They have Devin Booker, they have other talent there. If they sneak in and get the 8th seed, cool. Like I said, I still think Portland has a better shot at going up against the Lakers, but I'm excited. Basketball has me super excited, especially with the playoffs right around the corner.
Yeah. Good games tomorrow, or what? Like the day of release. You guys are listening to this. Clippers, Dallas, 6:30 Eastern. That's gonna be a great game. Phoenix, they need a win to stay alive. They're going up against Indiana. That's a 4 p.m. Eastern. But the main game that you probably want to watch, 9 p.m. Eastern, Lakers, Rockets. It's going to be a fantastic game to watch. And I keep forgetting that this is all in Orlando. I'm used to like baseball right now, where the East teams, they'll start off at like 6 p.m. Eastern, and then the Dodgers will start up at like 9 p.m., 10 p.m. Eastern time. And I'm like, ooh, I got some time. It's like, oh, wait, these games are like, yeah, they're starting 8 p.m. Central time for us, but it's not like late like before.
We get basketball all day. The first game is Pelicans Kings, which is a very, very important game. That's a very important game. Starts at 12:30 Central Time. If you're on the West Coast, you're waking up, you're cooking breakfast. Depends on what time you wake up. You wake up and hit the gym early in the morning, you got some time. But that's a 10:30. That's like a football on a Sunday. You watch football at 10 a.m. And then it goes on. Suns Pacers, like you mentioned. I'm looking forward to the Trailblazers Nuggets game, which starts at 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Nuggets are playing with a purpose, but guess what? They've been playing without Will Barton. They've been playing without Jamal Murray, who Jamal Murray is a great guard. He makes up a part of this important. I mean, the Nuggets have always been known, besides Nikola Jokic, for having great talent at guard. They haven't had it really because of injuries. Trailblazers are playing for that 8th seed, so I'm looking forward to that game. There's not really a bad game on the lineup. There really isn't a bad game, but I think that Lakers-Rockets game at 8 p.m., as long as LeBron plays his minutes, as long as AD plays his minutes, it'd be interesting to see what they do. Because going forward, their games still technically matter when they're playing teams like the Rockets, because that's going to determine where these teams fall in that path to the finals.
Yeah. And it's your like first look for how you're going to match up against these guys in the bubble. Speaking of all the games going on tomorrow, you are going to post a FanDuel lineup. Do you already have one made?
No. So I made one last week, or maybe 2 weeks ago.
It was last
I can't remember. It was last week.
Yeah.
So last week I had one. It scored. It was not the best. It was like it was under 300, that's subpar. That's trash. I don't accept that. The following day, I scored like 355, 360, almost back-to-back days, but I made adjustments on my lineup that day. So be on the lookout. I don't have a lineup right now, but be on the lookout. I would say probably around 10 a.m., 11 a.m. Central Time. This episode will be out already by then. It's my birthday lineup. I feel it. My fingers are tingling. I already know what lineup I'm going to go with, and I don't even know.
It will be posted on Twitter as well.
This time it will be posted on Twitter. I took control of the account. Don't count on me all the time. But yes, it will be on Twitter. I want to compare. I want to see who can outscore me. I always take pride in my NBA FanDuel choosing. I'm all about value, points per dollar. I look at everything. We'll see what happens. I'm expecting a big day tomorrow. There's some big matchups. Look at the over-unders. I think the biggest thing for me that I can always have a takeaway for anybody playing FanDuel, look at the matchups, look at what the experts are scoring for the over under. There's a reason why there's experts scoring the over under, because chances are it'll be pretty damn close. So look at that. Lakers, I don't know. I can't tell you my lineup yet. I've looked at the matchups. I got some key players in mind.
Yeah, so NBA will be posted tomorrow. I'll have an MLB lineup. Don't take mine into too hard of a consideration, especially because baseball. If you're a first timer for FanDuel, don't take my lineup. Throw it into like $100. But with baseball, if you want to compare, we can compare. I'll have a lineup posted as well on both social medias that we have.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to that. I'm huge into FanDuel and into fantasy sports in general. Huge. Football's around the corner. Have a lineup for that already for week 1, but we'll see what ends up happening. It's still too early. So, but yeah, I think that's got to wrap up the episode, guys. So tune in, listen, download. As we always stress, if it's your first time listening in, thank you for listening through to the end of the episode. We are the Standing Room Only podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Hit the download button. That is how we see our view count. That is the most important metric that we actually have visibility of. We're on social media, the SR Only Pod, Twitter, Instagram, and of course our personal accounts. I am iGoose with 4 O's. Don't ask why. And then we have Healy.
You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at the Healy6.
Yes, and he's on YouTube as well. If anybody plays MLB The Show, likes baseball, he creates good content. Go give him a watch, a listen, a download, a like. We're interactive. So here's to cheers to another year. As Healy said, it is my birthday. I don't really want to talk about it anymore. I'll have a drink to that. Healy, I hopefully will see you some point this weekend, tomorrow night. But yeah, everybody stay safe. Cheers.
Yeah, have a good one.